Trapped with a Billionaire. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever. By A'Ina Nightjar. Chapter 1.
The elevator shuddered. Iris grabbed the handrail and prayed she wouldn't topple over. Her stomach lurched, that awful floating drop sensation catching up with her a second too late. Then just as suddenly, it stopped. The lights flickered once, then went out entirely, leaving the small metal box in oppressive darkness. She stared at the glowing number above the door. 17. She had been bound for 22. She had been running late, flustered, thinking, if this elevator stops. And now, she thought, bitterly, it has. You've got to be kidding me, she muttered, voice echoing loudly in the confined space. Well, said a voice beside her, calm but edged with surprise, this is inconvenient. She exhaled slowly, resting her head against the mirrored wall. Please tell me you didn't just jinx us. I don't think I have that kind of power, he said, with a faint inflection of amusement, though one cannot ever be certain. She glanced sideways at him then. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dark hair slightly mussed as if he'd run a hand through it one too many times. A pale gray sweater, dark jeans, sneakers so spotless. Simple, yet of unmistakable quality. They screamed money. Definitely enough to buy this building rich person casual. He looked annoyingly composed for someone trapped between floors. And just when Iris thought this was going to be the longest, most awkward ride of her life, she recognized him.
Chapter 2. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
Okay, emergency protocol, Iris declared, pressing herself upright. Step 1. Panic quietly. The man smiled despite himself, a slight curving of the lips, and remarked, an admirable beginning. And step 2? He asked. Step 2. Press the button and hope someone hears you. She did. The speaker crackled to life. Maintenance has been notified. Please remain calm. Remain calm, Iris echoed. Great advice. How deeply comforting. He pulled out his phone, frowned at the screen, and tucked it away. No signal, he said. Same, she admitted, finally turning to observe him fully. Recognition stirred within her as sharply as a bell. Oh, she said. He tilted his head, attentive. Oh, he asked. Leo Ward? The billionaire tech guy. I am. He admitted, though the shadow of a rueful smile crossed his features. Though I had hoped for gentleman in gray sweater. She laughed, a brief, incredulous sound. Of course it is you. Why should fate not arrange that I be trapped in a confined space with a man who commands empires? That obvious? He asked. You appear in the news, she said, steadying herself. You just bought that robotics company. Right. And there are those articles with captions like this man is ruining capitalism, but also hot. He considered this. I've never been diagnosed with that before, he said gravely. She grinned despite the situation. Iris, she introduced herself, extending a hand she could scarcely see. I am a designer of book covers. And, well, an aspiring author too. And apparently, I die in elevators now. An honor, Iris who designs her own elevator tomb, he replied. Only minutes trapped together. And already, the sparks are flying. But will they survive the ride?
Chapter 3. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
They stood there, each quietly aware of the peculiar hand fate had played them. Too close for strangers, too far for anything else. Time seemed to stretch, elastic and indulgent, while the mirror multiplied them endlessly, reflection upon reflection, until the edges of her anxiety softened beneath the weight of his calm presence. Iris slipped her heels off and lowered herself to the floor, crossing her legs with a small sigh of relief. The cool metal seeped through her clothes, grounding her in the moment. Leo hesitated only a heartbeat before following her lead, settling opposite her. In the mirror, they faced one another. Two strangers caught in an unexpected intimacy, reflected into infinity. 1,000 versions of a moment that hadn't existed an hour ago, and yet now felt oddly inevitable. "How long do you think this'll take?" she asked, her tone light, curious rather than worried. "Hard to say," he replied. "This building's older than it looks." "Perfect," she muttered, lips curving. "I told myself to take the stairs." "I tell myself the same every day," he said, a quiet laugh threading through his words, as though the confession pleased him more than it should. She reached for her tablet, partly to occupy her hands, partly to feel useful. The familiar weight was comforting, a small island of order in the middle of uncertainty. She opened a half-finished file and began to sketch, the stylus gliding as lines curled across the screen like delicate lifelines. "What are you working on?" he asked, leaning just slightly closer. "Cover concepts," she replied. "Mostly romance. Which means men who stare intensely into the middle distance, foretelling tempestuous passion." "Do they ever smile?" he asked, amused. "Never," she said solemnly. "That would ruin the mystique." A shared smile passed between them, brief, but unmistakably charged. "What's this one about?" he asked. "Second chances," she said. "Great desire. Chemistry that refuses to be ignored." "Indeed," he murmured, watching her hands move as though the meaning might reveal itself between the lines. "It pays the rent," she added softly. "Sometimes." He studied her in silence, attentive in a way that felt unusually intimate. Such focus was rare, and unexpectedly disarming. Most people lost interest quickly when she worked. But he didn't. And Iris found herself wondering, quietly, dangerously, whether a couple of hours trapped in an elevator could become the beginning of something she hadn't planned for at all.
Chapter 4. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
"You're very focused," he observed. "If I stop, I'll start imagining worst-case scenarios." "Such as?" he asked. "Like running out of air. Or being rescued by someone I know while looking like this," she said, gesturing vaguely at herself. "Vulnerable." He laughed, low and gentle. "By my reckoning, you do exceedingly well." "High praise from a man who probably owns elevators," she replied. "Only metaphorically," he said. "I prefer stairs when I can." Minutes passed and flowed. Then more. The elevator creaked occasionally, as if reminding them it was still broken. "I should warn you, I get chatty when anxious," Iris confessed, not looking up. "I, in contrast, am schooled in patience," Leo said. "The hours in meetings have prepared me for this." And so their conversation flowed on, untouched by thoughts of fortune or reputation. Slipping free of society's vanities and expectations. And in their place arose a deeper, radiant sincerity, one that gently warmed the air between them, weaving itself into a quiet, intoxicating intimacy. A pause settled over them, soft but charged, as if the elevator itself had conspired to heighten every sensation between them. Leo's gaze held hers a heartbeat longer than necessary, and she felt the thrilling spark of a connection that had appeared out of nowhere. Unexpected, unplanned, and utterly undeniable.
Chapter 5. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
When the elevator jolted to life nearly 2 hours later, Iris started. "We are moving," she whispered. A shadow of disappointment lingered between them, as though some sacred intimacy were being surrendered. The doors slid open, and normality returned. Footsteps, voices, the ordinary din of life. For a moment, neither of them moved. The world was suddenly all noise, too public and real. "Well," he said, Rising, we have survived. Barely, she replied, slipping her shoes back on, as if responding to her movement. The elevator gave a sudden tiny lurch, sending her stumbling just a fraction. Leo instinctively reached for her arm. Their eyes met. A startled laugh escaped her. Well, that was convenient. Extremely, he replied, voice low and disarmingly warm. For a suspended heartbeat, the world outside vanished. The elevator, for its last playful mischief, had created a moment entirely theirs, a brush of hands, a shared smile, intimate and impossibly infuriating. They stepped out together, carrying the fragile enchantment with them. Something lingered, a quiet tether to the hours shared between floors. Leo hesitated, then asked gently, "Can I buy you coffee?" She tilted her head, measured. "Is this your way of compensating me for the ordeal, or apologizing for your fortune?" "Yes." "Both," he said. "And for my own selfish desire to continue our discourse." She considered him for a moment, as if thinking, though she already knew her answer. She consented. "Fine. But I'm telling Eleanor I met you under duress, and I'm also ordering something expensive." "Agreed."
Chapter 6. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
Eleanor disapproved immediately. "Absolutely not," she declared, eyes narrowing like a hawk locking onto prey. "Nope. Billionaires are sirens of misfortune." Iris rolled her eyes, smiling despite herself. "You haven't met him," she protested, a flicker of defensiveness in her voice. "I don't need to," Eleanor said, shaking her head. "Power imbalance, media attention, complications, emotional oddities, these are well documented," she insisted. "But he seems sincere," Iris whispered, almost as if saying it out loud might make it less true. "That is precisely how they get you, and thus is the peril," Eleanor warned. Then proceeded to sip her drink, with the precision of someone who measured both words and consequences. Despite warnings, a first date awaits, and sparks are ready to fly.
Chapter 7. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
They met in a tucked-away restaurant, candlelight dancing across their faces like private fireworks. Shared plates, lingering glances, laughter that hung in the air, carrying the echo of the elevator's long-ago magic. Halfway through dinner, as the waiter whisked away their plates, Leo leaned closer, the smallest shift, his voice low and velvety. "I don't want this to feel strange," he told her. "I don't want you to feel like you're dating a headline." Iris tilted her head, a teasing curve to her lips. "I won't, as long as you don't treat me like a charity case." He laughed, warm and soft, leaning just enough that the faint, familiar scent of his cologne reached her. Subtle, intoxicating, impossible to ignore. His gaze held hers with quiet insistence, telling her wordlessly that she was enough. Just herself. "Deal," he whispered, and the word lingered between them, like a secret written only for their hearts. Their hands met over the half-eaten dessert, fingers brushing, tangling. A tiny thrill sparked through them, familiar, warm, and comforting, all at once. Outside the window, the world blurred into insignificance. Inside, there was only light, laughter, and the irresistible pull of something new and inevitable, something reminiscent of that first confinement.
Chapter 8. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
Time seemed to bend around them, stretching the ordinary into something extraordinary, though Eleanor's cautions still whispered at the edges of Iris's mind. "Iris, are you out of your mind? Billionaires aren't fairy tales. They're headlines waiting to happen. Watch yourself." Her phone vibrated again in her pocket, a second message from Eleanor. "Seriously? Don't let the sparkle blind you." I'm only saying this because I care. She tucked it away, a smile curving her lips. Leo didn't need wealth or status to captivate her. There was something far more intoxicating about him that she couldn't name. The brush of his hand across hers that lingered a heartbeat too long, the low timbre of his laugh that seemed to vibrate through her chest, the heat in his gaze that left her breathless. In his presence, every touch sparked a tender trail across her skin, every glance a private confession. He made the world shrink to the space between them, where nothing existed but the warmth of his hand and the slow, deliberate rhythm of their closeness. Weeks slipped by like whispered secrets. Golden sunsets stretched across languid walks, stolen moments in hidden corners where everything else ceased to exist. Laughter mingled with fleeting, soul-stirring kisses that set her pulse racing, her body responding hungrily in quiet anticipation. Every moment was a revelation, a slow, exquisite unraveling of two souls drawn ever closer, entwined in a rhythm all their own. And then, as if fate delighted itself once more in mischief, reality intruded, a single, unwelcome message, threatening to shatter the fragile calm they had so carefully nurtured.
Chapter 9. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
The city stretched beneath them, a glittering sea of lights beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows of Leo's penthouse. The apartment was sleek and modern, every surface polished to a perfect glow. A rug muffled their footsteps, and a low leather sofa waited, quietly inviting. Iris's laptop cast a pale light on her face, tracing the curve of her cheek, the slope of her shoulders. She shivered, not from the cool air, but from the nearness of him. "I got rejected again," she murmured, fingers drifting over the keyboard. Leo leaned over her shoulder, warm and solid, brushing her arm. His jaw tightened, eyes darkening with something fierce, protective. "They didn't even look," he murmured, matching her frustration. Iris let out a small, wry smile. "It's fine. It always is." He shifted just slightly closer, voice low, careful. "I could help. Just introductions. Nothing more." Her gaze lifted to meet his, steady but vulnerable. "No buying outcomes. No purchase triumphs," she said, though a flutter of hope stirred in her chest. He inclined his head, the faintest smile tugging at his lips. "I wouldn't. You know I wouldn't." She studied him, searching the honesty, the promise in his eyes. After a long pause, she nodded. "Okay. Introductions." "Only introductions," he repeated, though the charged silence between them quivered with something far more dangerous. She reached for her coffee, a small, almost reflexive gesture to ground herself, but his fingers caught her wrist with a deliberate, feather-light grip. A shiver raced through her, warm and thrilling, a spark that ignited her senses. She tilted her head, eyes meeting his, the faintest teasing curve tugging at her lips, a wordless stare, charged and playful, that left the air between them thrumming with anticipation. "I think this calls for a little celebration," he murmured, low and intimate, each word vibrating against her. Before she could respond, his lips found hers, soft, testing, teasing, a question that demanded an answer. She leaned into him, matching the hunger and playfulness in his kiss, letting it stretch, linger, drawing them into a private orbit. Everything else fell away. The city, the rejection, the world outside. None of it mattered. Only him, only her, and the delicious certainty that she was giving herself, fully, to whatever came next. And then, just as they pulled back, he whispered, a slow, mischievous murmur that sent another shiver racing down her spine. "Careful. I might never let you go." Her lips curved into a smile, a soft laugh escaping, her hand lingering on his chest. The night stretched ahead, endless and intimately theirs, and she knew, with every pulse of her racing heart, she would follow him anywhere.
Chapter 10. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
The press came swiftly. A photo of them. A caption. Tech mogul's mystery girlfriend. Eleanor, ever vigilant, sent it with a single line. Please tell me this isn't how you find out you're famous. Her phone buzzed non-stop. Messages, inquiries, interview offers, congratulations. From acquaintances, clients, a publisher who had rejected her twice. Leo called. I'm so sorry. I didn't think. I know, Iris said, chest tight. Her throat ached with frustration and a strange, unfamiliar shame. I just need a minute. Eleanor arrived that evening with takeout and fury. This is what I warned, she said, pacing. Your work is going to get questioned. People will assume. I know. Iris snapped, then sighed, rubbing her temples. I know. The next week was worse. Calls, emails fraught with misdirected attention, invitations multiplied out of nowhere. I am sorry they're not subtle, Leo said one night, jaw tight. I don't want this, Iris said. I don't want to wonder if anything I get is because of you. I never wanted that either, he replied. But I cannot undo who I am. They considered it together. How to preserve what was theirs without sacrificing each other. I think, Iris said slowly, we need space. Until this settles. Until I know what's mine. He nodded, bearing the ache in his gaze. Okay, he said. I'll wait. Months passed. Long months, each marked by the faint echo of what they had, suspended in patience, like a river flowing quietly beneath ice, an unlit elevator waiting to jolt back to life.
Chapter 11. In Elevator Hearts. 17 Floors to Love. 2 Stops to Forever.
9 months later, Iris held her book in her hands. Her name on the cover. Her work, her triumph, distilled into something solid and undeniable. A satisfying victory she could finally feel in her bones. Emotion welled before she could stop it, softening her gaze. Leo stood behind her, his presence steady, arms resting around her shoulders as though they had always belonged there. He didn't speak. He never needed to. The warmth of him was reassurance enough. At the launch, a reporter edged forward, pen poised. How does it feel, he asked, to be dating a billionaire? Iris smiled, unhurried, as if the question had already been answered. Her fingers traced the spine of the book, following its lines the way she once had the polished rail inside an elevator, heart quickening with every passing floor. He was just the guy in the elevator, she said, her voice calm, almost fond. Leo's hand closed around hers, his thumb brushing her skin, familiar in the way some things never fade. Still am, he said, half laughing, the sound meant for her alone. A soft laugh escaped her, unrestrained, unguarded. You make everything sound so cinematic. Only when it matters, he replied, tilting his head just slightly, gaze holding hers. For a heartbeat, the crowd, the cameras, the world, everything outside them, faded into a blur. There was only this, a quiet tether, tender and unhurried, built of sparks that had always waited for this moment. The intimacy of two people suspended between fate and certainty. A connection shaped by small, returning moments. By the memory of ascent and pause, of being briefly removed from the world, and choosing again and again to stay. And somehow, that earned certainty, she thought, was everything. And then, gently, as if affirming everything she felt, he dipped his head, lips brushing hers in a kiss soft and sure, lingering long enough to speak all the words they didn't need to say. Her fingers threaded through his, pulling him closer, and for that perfect, suspended moment, nothing existed beyond the warmth, the taste, and the quiet certainty that they had always been meant to find this together. A slow, satisfied smile curved across her lips as his hand cupped her cheek. a playful tilt of his head teasing her closer. The world outside the room fell away, leaving only the kiss, the tether between them, and the delicious, undeniable knowledge that they were exactly where they were meant to be. The end.